Give me just a second. Just gonna pull up chat on my phone. Okay. There we go. Alrighty. We'll go ahead and get started. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're watching from. Welcome to tizoguitar. If you're new here, my name is Tyler Griffiths. I go by Tizo, and this channel is all about learning guitar, but with a special focus on R&B music. So if that's what you're into, I highly recommend going ahead and subscribing to the channel, clicking the little notification bell so that you're always alerted whenever I go live or drop a new video, as well as supporting the channel through Patreon. On Patreon, I have lots of different tabs. I have advice for beginner and intermediate guitarists. I have some tabs for exercise drills to work on your hand coordination and your dexterity. So all that kind of stuff is there. There's plenty of tabs for songs that I don't necessarily cover on YouTube, but whenever I get a request from patrons to tab out a song, I try to get to that and post that for them over there. So patreon.com/tizoguitar is the best place to find that. Anyway, I thought today we would kind of talk about something regarding the kind of state of technology now. There are a lot of different options that you have out there today as far as multi-effects pedals. You have plugins that you can use on your computer with your music software. You have even headphone amps, so little amps that are probably like this big, I don't know, 3-4 inches, that plug directly into your guitar. About the size of this transmitter, but this is a transmitter for a wireless guitar cable thing. So you have a bunch of different options that you can use in the digital space to get the effect of an amp and typical pedals that you would find on a pedal board. So that's the way I kind of made the title of this live stream, Do You Need an Amp in 2023, when we have all these different digital options and emulations out there that can still get you a good sound. So if you are new, or if you're not new here, then you probably know this isn't my typical setup. Right now I'm doing a little bit of traveling, visiting some family, and so I spent the better part of this week putting together a mobile rig. And so when I was doing that, I was saying, well, do I really want to bring my Helix from home? Do I really want to bring all these extra things that I don't want to be carrying in and out of the car as I'm going from place to place? So I spent some time this week, got my mobile rig together, and so really what I'm using today is just a MacBook. I have an audio interface, which is a audio box USB. I have this wireless transmitter, so I can kind of have one less cable. It just takes the place of your guitar cable, plugging it into the interface. And I have a little tripod for my camera, but right now I'm just using the MacBook's built-in webcam. And then all of the sounds that we're going to be hearing today, right? That guitar sound is all coming from an emulation. It's not an amp, it's not my Helix. It's all coming from GarageBand and a plugin that I'm going to be showing you guys a little bit about today. So, my answer to the question, do you need an amp in 2023? Personally, no. I have one amp in my home. I very rarely use it. I only kind of use it to test out pickups and stuff. After I swap pickups out, I kind of keep it next to my workbench. That way I can quickly plug in and make sure the guitar is working as it's supposed to. But as far as like actually practicing and preparing content for the channel, I use either the Helix, which is all emulation as well, and then right now I'm just using a plugin through GarageBand. So let me take you through kind of my setup right now, so you can kind of hear what I sound like. Right? Right? Sounds pretty convincing, like an amp sound. So what I'm using, I'm just gonna pull up a screen share. All right, so you should be able to see my screen on GarageBand. So I'm just doing 2 tracks, right? I have my guitar on track 1, and I have my microphone going through track 2. So on the guitar, I have this plugin here, and this is called the Archetype Corey Wong. So this is made by a company called Neuro DSP. I am not sponsored by them in any way, shape, or form. I'm just using their product to work on this mobile rig. So what it is it's basically a plugin that simulates a few different amps. So right now I'm using what is called the amp snob, which I believe is supposed to be an emulation of like a Dumble type sound. I'm not sure what the other two are, but this middle one here, we have the clean machine. And this third one, we have the DI Funk console. So this one's kind of more like the driest, um, kind of, it's trying to emulate the sound of really just plugging your guitar directly into a console and giving just a little bit more gain so you can hear things. So we have that. We have the clean machine, and if you're aware of Corey Wong and how he plays guitar, he's a funk guitarist. So a lot of his stuff is very clean. It's very rhythm driven. A lot of 16th note strumming. And so these three models are kind of what he chose to be as his thing. That's why they call it like archetypes. So it's like it's the type of sounds that Corey Wong goes to and that he wants in a plugin such as this. So I believe this one cost, at this time, it's 119 euros. So it's probably like 130 bucks or something like that, once you include tax and all that, US. So it's a little bit of a pricey plugin, but now what you're getting for that is you're getting these three different amp models, and then you're also getting some different effects. You're getting EQ. There's also some ways where you can attach like foot switches and stuff through MIDI, but I'm not going to get into all that in today's stream. I'm just going to keep working, just looking at the basics of what you can get in 2023 with software modeling. So this is the amp I'm using. I'm using the amp snub, the Dumble-ish kind of sounding amp. Right here we have a bunch of effects here. So we have the compressor, which is always on, and you see it's called the fourth position compressor because Corey Wong always plays in fourth position. And if you're not familiar with what a compressor does, it kind of just restricts the dynamics or the volume differences as you play. So if you are playing and certain parts of your playing are louder, it will bring those down. Certain parts of your playing are quieter, it'll bring it up. Kind of bring everything together so that you get a consistent volume in your playing and things aren't just like sticking out and like distracting people because, oh, that note was too loud and this note is too quiet kind of thing. So compressors keep your volume even, basically. You can do some other like tricks to get more sustain out of your lead tone with compressors. We won't go into that today. Just want to give you guys a brief overview. All right, so we got a compressor that's on. A little light there is an indicator. And here we have what they call the tuber. It's kind of like a tube screamer, so like a somewhat of a mid-boost type of distortion or overdrive. So here's my regular sound. And if I just click to engage here, instantly you get that kind of like hard rock sound. Alright, so it kind of just thickens up your sound and adds that distortion over the top. And then this big rig overdrive is more of like a more noticeable push. So if I disable the tuber and turn on the big rig, just a little bit louder, a little bit more saturated. And if I stack them, so basically two options, right? And it's good to be able to stack overdrives. That's something that I do with the Helix, or even if I'm using an analog pedal board, you kind of would set it up to where you have a lighter distortion or lighter overdrive or a boost, whatever you want to call that, as like your first stage. And then when you want to get to like your lead tones, maybe you want to boost it even more, then you'd have your second pedal. So this rig gives you the ability to do that. All right. If you have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat. I will be looking down at my phone to periodically check chat. But right now, if you're just joining us, we are looking at kind of what you can get in 2023 as far as digital modeling and not necessarily needing an amp. So with this demonstration, all I'm using is my guitar, an audio interface, and this plugin from Neural DSP called the Archetype Corey Wong. All right, so we got our distortions going. While those are both on, I'll switch over to this section. So if you go here, you have your time-based effects. From left to right, we have chorus. We have, in the middle, we have our delay, which is a dual delay. It's kind of cool. So you can like set one side to be a quarter note delay and the other side to be like an eighth note delay, whatever it is. And then here we have a reverb, which has this little shimmer button. So why don't we start with, here, actually, let me turn off the distortion for now. I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna turn on the delay, which is pretty typical. Delay just repeats the notes. All right, so I play one time, and you get that echoey sound. Right, you get little things like that. And like I said before, you can set the time of one side to be different. So if I want to push this up to an eighth note delay, you you can hear if you have headphones, you can hear on the right side it's different. It's a different interval of delay than the left side. And that can get messy depending on how you set your intervals, but it's cool to have that option. So there's a dual delay unit in this one. Then you have a reverb, which is already on. This shimmer button is kind of different. So what the shimmer effect does, it kind of adds like a blooming kind of ambient sound. So if I play, this is without the shimmer on. All right, so you can just hear just a light touch of reverb or like an echoey, spacey thing. And then if I put on the shimmer, right, you hear that like angelic kind of ambient noise behind it. Kind of works if you have like slower chord changes. With a quick chord progression, it probably wouldn't sound very good. It'd just get kind of messy and overloaded. But if you have a slow, kind of a cool effect, right? Okay, so that's what shimmer does. It just adds the ambient backing sound to it. Let me just grab some water. Okay, so we have our delay, we have our reverb with the shimmer. I'm gonna turn that off. There we go. And then the chorus, that sounds kind of like the typical 80s sound. So you would have, if I plug, so this is my regular sound, just reverb right now, and now chorus engaged. Right, you hear that instant like wavy kind of modulated sound. Or I shouldn't say modulated, but it's like a little bit of a delay. It's like you have kind of overlaid two guitars and just slightly adjusted the timing. So you can do what you can do. So you can get some kind of R&B sounds out of that too. So that's the chorus, right? So all this, once again, it's a complete emulation. There's no stomp pedals in front of me. There's no pedal board hidden underneath my desk out of view. It's all coming from this unit here, or from this plugin. All right, so I'm gonna turn off the chorus. And like I said, you can kind of stack things. You could add delay. So I'll turn delay on. I'll drop this back to quarter note so it's matched. I have the reverb going, and then if I wanted to throw on the two distortions, then you can get kind of like your lead tone. Once again, like lead tone, my approach to lead tone is really just two distortions, reverb, and delay. I kind of keep it simple like that. Two distortions really kind of push the amp or the amp simulation to get that nice sound that you want, that really big distorted, but still clear. Like you can still hear the notes. It's not lost in like the sea of distortion, right? But with that, a little bit of echo fills the space out, or delay, and then the reverb makes it sound like you're kind of like in an arena almost, or in a cathedral. And just with those, that's pretty much all I really need for my lead tone. So you can get all that in 2023, you can get all that from just a plugin. All right, so the last thing I'll show you as far as effects are concerned is this here. So they call it the postal service. It's kind of a funny name for it. So this effect right here that you're seeing in magenta is a envelope filter, all right? And so what that kind of does, if you're familiar with the sound of a wah pedal, it kind of has that sound of like that womp, womp, womp when you play. So here it's clean, right? Typical clean guitar. When I engage the envelope filter, right? Right, so let me know in the comments if you know what that song is. But that envelope filter is kind of cool because you don't have to worry about like stepping on the wah pedal as you're playing each of the notes. It kind of just does it at a regular interval. And you'll see they have like these little knobs here for like attack, sensitivity, and decay. And you can kind of like tweak this to your settings. If you want it to engage faster, then you would put the attack up, I believe is how it would, at least as far as it's concerned. Faster attack means it engages quicker, so it's going to catch your note quicker. Slower attack means it's going to maybe let a little bit of that note out, like the regular sound of it, and then engage. I'm not sure on this particular plugin which direction it would be in, but in any case, that's the principle of attack, right? Attack and decay. Attack is how quickly, and if they're using decay to mean release here, then release would be how quickly, or decay would be how quickly it lets go of that sound, or that note. Let me see if I can figure that. So if I go all the way down, and if I go all the way up, so it seems like all the way up is a little bit slower. So as you adjust this, bringing it down would make it catch that note and apply that envelope filter effect quickly. Okay, so we got those there, and then just like a typical amp, you have all these little knobs here that you can adjust. You have your volume, you have your out level. There's like a little drive knob here. It's kind of cool, so you can get distorted sounds without even having to engage the distortion pedal. Which, let me turn this off here and kind of see what that sounds like. So this is clean, and then drive, enabled. Yeah, it gets really crunchy. And I'm playing very softly right now. Okay, that's cool to know they have that option there. But yeah, like you have your typical EQ stack, so you have your bass, where you can kind of control more of the low end. Basically, counterclockwise will lower the prominence of the bass in the sound. Turning it clockwise will raise it up. And that's with any kind of amp that you would get, typically. They all have like a bass, middle, and high or treble knob. Then you have your master volume, which in here it's set to the max. And then presence is kind of the high mids to highs section. So it's almost like a second treble knob, but it's just in a different frequency range than the treble knob would be. So you can kind of tune in. I think it's because guitar tends to be a mid to high mid kind of sounding instrument. That's where it would sit in the mix. Having that presence knob kind of lets you dial in your sound a little bit more. But if you're brand new to all this, you probably won't spend too much time messing with that. The settings that they come as is on the default section seems to sound great. And so oftentimes I don't even really mess with the EQ here. If you wanted to get into the nitty-gritty of EQ and you understand how that works, how the different frequency ranges are split up, there is a separate EQ unit in this plugin as well. So you can kind of dial in at 65 hertz, 125 hertz, 260, however they break up their bands. So this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 band EQ. And the way it would work, 65 hertz would be like the very low end, and the 16 hertz would be the very high end. The spectrum that humans can hear is between 20 hertz at the lowest to 20,000 hertz at the highest. And so these different EQ bands will let you kind of further tweak. Maybe you want more mids to high mids, so you want to be kind of in this area. If you feel like things sound a little too boxy, you can cut some of those mids. It's really up to you, and kind of watching other tutorials on YouTube to figure out what part of the frequency spectrum that you're trying to modify to get the sound that you want. But it's good that you have this option in this plugin as well. Here you can kind of tweak more of the cabinet preferences. So if you're not used to playing amps that have a separate amp head and speaker cabinet, usually like you'll have the combination, what they call a combo amp. But in this case, they're treating it separately in this plugin. So you have your speakers down here and your amp and processing up here. And so what you would do typically to record an amp is you would have a microphone really close to the speaker cone, right? So here you have different simulations of different microphones you can pick. You can do dynamic microphones like an SM57. You can do condenser microphones. You can do ribbon microphones. And they each have their own sound. I won't get into it here. But you have this level of customization, which is really cool to see, because typically, the stuff that I used when I was a little bit younger was just kind of like you had one amp model that you can choose, and maybe you'd have a few different distortion models, a few different reverbs, whatever it was, but it wasn't this level of customization that we're getting now. So I'm kind of really impressed that we're able to simulate things like how far the microphone is off of the center of the cone, what type of microphone you're using, all these different kinds of things. You can do panning. You can choose which side you want this on. You can do two separate mics, so one mic going to the left, one mic going to the right. You know, but all that stuff is kind of beyond the scope of what I wanted to cover in today's stream. Just wanted to show you that these things were possible. So we've gone over how we have envelope filter, compressor, basically two drives. We have more of a tube distortion, like a tube screamer, and then a heavier distortion overdrive. And then EQ, 3 different amp models for you to play with. The cabinet emulation that you can tweak to your liking, and then the time-based effects here as well. And I believe through MIDI you can do things like tap tempo in for the delay, like to set the tempo of your track, or set your delay to the tempo of your track or of your song, and have it modified based off of that, and a whole bunch of other stuff. I haven't even gotten to all the things that this can do, but kind of wanted to just show you that this is an option that you have, and so you can get really realistic amp sounds, really realistic time-based effects and distortion, all that from a plugin, which is kind of crazy. And so, it's a little bit of an investment. It's 120, 130 bucks. But for what it's replacing, you got to think, what's the price of an amp? Even like a cheap combo amp can run you 100 bucks. And then you're looking at pedals. If you want to go on the cheaper end of pedals, it's like $30 to $40 a pop, depending on what's cheap to you. Some people think that $100 pedals are cheap, and that's their budget. But you add on a dual delay unit, a reverb unit, a chorus pedal, 2 distortions, a compressor, and an envelope filter, and I guarantee you're going over 120 bucks, unless you're getting things like secondhand or whatever it may be. So that's pretty much all I wanted to show you today. Just what you can do with that, and this has really kind of helped me just to have a mobile rig that I can take with me, where I don't have to have all of my equipment from home. It's really just a convenience thing for me too. But when you're recording, if you're someone who likes to produce, and maybe you're getting into guitar, maybe that's why you're following the channel in the first place. Like, you want to start adding guitar to your beats, this is an option for you. I know you're already familiar with the world of VSTs and plugins. This is one that you can use, and they have other ones. They have Guitar Rig, I think it's called, Guitar Rig 6 or 7, and they're on now. Does the same thing. Neural DSP has a bunch of other archetype type plugins, so you can have one that's like based off of Mateus Asado is the newest one. If you're not familiar with Mateus Asado, definitely look him up. Fantastic player. And so even beyond, if we're not even looking at plugins, like the multi-effects units that they have out now, do the same thing. They model amps and cabinets and effects pedals. So with like the options you have there, you could have like the Pod Go, you have the Head Rush, I think it's called the MX5. You have any of the Line 6 products, so the HX Stomp, the Helix, of course. You have the Head Rush Prime is an option. Kemper has a floorboard version of their profiler. Quad Cortex, which is also from Neural DSP, who makes this plugin. And then Fender just released theirs, I think, last week? The Fender Tone Master Pro. So tons of options there. Really the world is your oyster, and this is a great time to be looking at digital rigs if you're getting into guitar. But like I said, sometimes there's nothing like having like a real AC30 in the room with you cranked up. Like there's something to being able to feel that and not just listen through headphones. But there's a ton of options and a ton of things you can play with in 2023, and it's only getting better from what I see. All right, checking chat real quick. Let's see. Brian Carricker says, I like this user interface, wish the Quad Cortex was similar. Yeah, definitely. They are working, I think they just released, maybe, was it over the week? Was it a couple days ago? They released their desktop editor, where it's like in open beta, so they're kind of like testing it right now. But that's what they've been missing for a long time. Like, that's where I feel like Line 6 products kind of have the upper hand on them. All the modelers and profilers kind of have a good, believable sound at this point, but it's all coming down to user ease of use, right? The users want to be able to use things and drag and drop things and be able to easily tweak things on the fly. And so having that desktop editor is huge for the Line 6 products. And um, I think Neural DSP is going to catch up because they definitely, they know software. It's just they have to take the time and do the research and get things working. Let's see what else. Freudland says, I have problem with using plugins. They sound muddy on my Edifier MR4. I don't know if it's my arterial interface or my cables because it's causing a muddy bassy sound. So the Edifier MR4, I'm not familiar with that. Is that an audio interface? Is that what it is? And is it clipping? I'm wondering if that's what's happening. Maybe it's pushing the signal too hard and it's clipping? Because I did have that issue when I was kind of tuning and getting ready for today's stream. I was the gain was way too high on this plugin. I had to turn things down, and also I think like GarageBand had like a compressor already built in on my track, so I had to turn that down because it was boosting at 7 dB for no reason. Didn't need it. But yeah, maybe I hope it's not just something that it's not compatible with, because it's a really good program, a really good plugin that I've had a lot of fun with. But yeah, depending on certain things, I guess certain softwares don't like to play nice with certain audio interfaces and such. Let's see, what driver should I use? Let's see, ASIO. That is a good question. So I'm running on a MacBook, and when I plugged it in, it just worked. I didn't have to do any tweaking with ASIO. On my PC at home, I use ASIO drivers. For the audio box, I used the ASIO for All driver that came with it, and then the Helix also has an ASIO driver that comes with it. So between those two, I use ASIO for All when I'm using my audio box, and I use the Helix ASIO driver when I'm using the Helix as my audio interface. And Brian says, yeah, use the desktop editor. It was really needed. For sure. Have you run into any bugs, Brian, with that? Because I know open beta is like kind of like the Wild West. You don't know what's gonna happen, or like if you get everything set up the way you want to, and then like the program just crashes. I'm always terrified to be a part of that experience. I like to let people do the open beta and then submit their feedback and then get like the version 2 or whatever it is, version 2.2 of the software. And maybe it's just me not wanting something to go wrong on stream or during a lesson, but yeah, I usually stay away from the first iteration. I mean, the Archetype Corey Wong plugin has been out for a while. I think I just purchased it about a year or so ago, but it had been out for a while before then. Alrighty. Yeah, so that's about all I had today. This isn't typically what I use, but I'm glad that I was able to get things working with the mobile rig. That you guys are able to hear me and the guitar. But yeah, I definitely encourage you to try out and see either which plugins or which multi-effects units that you like. Maybe just go to Guitar Center, try out like the Helix, try out the Pod Go, whatever they have kind of set up on their display. I know at my local Guitar Center they have like a Helix LT and a HX Stomp set up where you can just plug in with an amp right there and kind of have fun with that. But beyond that, I mean, there's some things you can get with just the stock plugins in GarageBand, so you don't even have to put any money out. If you already have a Mac Mini, MacBook, whatever, excuse me, GarageBand's already built in, and they have like different amp effects, they have compressor effects, they have all kinds of stuff. So definitely give that a try and see, like, hey, maybe you don't really need to be dragging an amp around, or certainly not when you're traveling, like myself. But yes, so that's about all for this stream. The next stream should be on Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern. I'll probably be teaching another song or maybe some licks. You can let me know in the comments if you have any requests for future videos or different topics that we can talk about on stream. And I would love to do like a more focused just Q&A stream for you if that's what you want. But you can leave your questions in the comment section below this video, and then what I'll do is I'll probably just gather, once I get enough to fill out a full stream, I'll just kind of have your questions and just go back to back answering them the best I can. Let's see, before I go, don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed today's stream. Leave a like, drop a comment, share this video. All that stuff is absolutely free to you and really helps my channel out. If you are looking for one-on-one lessons, I do offer private lessons through Zoom. You can send an email to tizoguitar, just like the channel name, tizoguitar@gmail.com. Say, hey, I saw your stream, I'm interested in lessons, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Otherwise, if you are looking to learn some more chords, to add some more chords to your bag, um, I do have something called Tizo's R&B chord library that is available for purchase at the link in the description of this stream or this video once it goes live to the channel. And really it's just a collection of 35 different voicings that I've come across and that I hear used in R&B music time and time again. So it's just to kind of narrow down and give you just what you would need for 90% of R&B songs. I feel like I can confidently say that. You just have those different chord voicings. I have sample progressions that are included that kind of show you how to put them to work. I show you how to move those chord shapes around so you're not just stuck in one key. And I also provide audio files so you can hear what each and every chord type should sound like to make sure you're playing it correctly. All that is available in a bundle. I am working on Chord Library Volume 2 as well as some stuff to kind of cover triads and arpeggios, so stay tuned for that. But otherwise, I want you guys to enjoy the rest of your weekend and hopefully come join me again on Tuesday. Real quick checking chat. Let's see. Crash to close window. Oh yeah, so like Brian was just saying, yeah, the desktop editor for Neural DSP's quad cortex is still having issues, but that's okay. They're gonna work on those, hopefully, and give you something that's comparable to what Line 6 gives you. Because I love competition. I'm sold out. I'm staying with my Helix forever, but it is good to have competition in the marketplace for sure. Okay, so I will see you next time. Take care.